And I think people will fight a whole lot harder to keep what they already believe they have than go out and try to attain something that they aren't really sure they need or not.
Hey, everybody, welcome to today's podcast. This is the Jeff Heilman Project, and you are tuning into the 92nd episode that we have cut. And that just means week after week, we are so blessed to be able to talk to you, to be able to talk with one another, to record for posterity our thoughts and the current events of the situation of the times. What we've been doing in the month of January is we've been going through, you could call the whole series, So What's Stressing You Out? And today's episode was actually slated the last week of January to be dedicated to your concerns that you've shown throughout the polls for climate and environmental factors, like what's stressing you out about that. But we're going to go a little more, a little less literal and a little more how would you say it? What's the opposite of literal? It's
Metaphorical.
metaphorical. Thank you. We're going to go a little less literal about the impact of our humanity onto the environment and the fact that we happen to practice and believe in good stewardship and resourcefulness and taking care of the earth that the Lord has given us. And we're going to go more metaphorical because you've recently undergone a climate change of source in your own ideology and in your own environment, in your
Yeah.
thinking.
Yeah.
And so I was hoping that after we talk about our pleasantries and ask each other how our week had been, if you would go deeper into your internal climate change that you've experienced in the last week and share with us what you've been experiencing and your new way of thinking in regards to things. Um, and the pleasantries or the keeping people up to date facts this week, we had to take our 16-year-old to the hospital. He woke up at 4 o'clock in the morning in pain and took a bath and tried to get over it. And he didn't call me, so I was thankful, even though I was awake. I really didn't know he was going through any kind of pain. But about 8 o'clock in the morning, I got a phone call from the other room saying, my tummy hurts, my stomach hurts, and I'm in a lot of pain. And then we went to Dr. Dad, and we're like, I don't even know where the appendix
Ask Dad.
is.
He knows.
Yeah, but Jeff's much better at physiology than I am, and so and he knew the right questions to ask and where to press, and we thought, we better just to be safe than sorry. After having 7 kids and being married for almost 30 years, it's better to be safe than sorry, and the urgent care happens to be right around the corner, so took him to urgent care, and
Yeah.
at urgent care they deduced that he was dehydrated for one, but then for number 2 that they thought
White blood cell count was high.
well, no, that didn't happen at the urgent care. The first
at the urgent care, yeah.
doctor, she said because he wasn't nauseous and because he was not didn't have diarrhea or was throwing up, that she's like, there's an acute if it's an acute pain without like stomach virus symptoms, then it's better to take them to emergency room. So we went from urgent care to emergency room, where there they did the blood test and they did the ultrasound and they did the CT scan, and they found out that he did in fact have appendicitis, in which we had a fantastic team and doctors.
This kid, I don't know, what's he say from House Guest? This man has a date with the tooth fairy.
This man has a date with tooth fairy. So we, promptly from 4 a.m. waking up in pain to by 4 p.m. same day, he was in the operating room getting his
God bless
appendix
America.
removed. And praise God, because evidently, according to appendixes, if they burst after 3 days, they can, you could die. You could get sepsis, and it could be really bad. So I'm just glad, I'm very thankful that we didn't just say, oh, try to sleep it off, or, let's give it a couple days and we'll see if you still hurt or whatever,
Yeah, and those are things I would have
they're
done.
valid,
I've done them
but
before.
yeah,
I've
but
operated that way before.
it
But
just seemed different this time. And plus we had just taken Andrew last week for to the clinic for dizziness, and it's just right around the corner, and there's the insurance that we have thankfully right now is so good that it was like a no dollar copay. So we'll get the bill for this one in the mail. But for now, we have a recovering child who has one appendix less, but yet is going to be bouncing around here in a couple of days, feeling, I'm sure, much, much better. So that's what's been going on here at the Heilman house in the last
Really grateful for the docs,
24
Dr.
hours.
Trenduk.
Tell us, please. You've been the climate. We've been talking about climate. We were talking about environmental. There's an environmental impact that your thinking has had. You're talking. You've been talking to us. You are your close friends and me about two sides of a coin. You said you had two sides to the coin. One side is the standard of excellence, and then the other side was what?
I was having a conversation with ChatGPT, which you can do now with the 4.0. You can have a verbal conversation with it. And I had a human friend, a guy named
Yeah,
Scott.
let's be clear.
I had a friend of mine named Scott who he was actually my manager at the time. He had a conversation which he gave this like mic drop thing, and I don't know where he got it from, but I'd heard it before, but it hadn't really had an impact. And for some reason, because Jessica and I are growth oriented, because we try to keep success doctrine top of mind in our lives, I have had to condition myself to go the other direction from cynicism and be grateful. And because I've conditioned myself to do that, I am, for the most part, grateful, even though my inner cynic does tend to come out and have his comedic way at times. But this friend of mine said, how you do anything is how you do everything.
And just interjecting there, that is exactly why I'm intertying this with the environmental impact and climate control stress, because how we do anything is how we do everything. How we operate our house, how we treat our house is going to be how we treat the planet.
That's right.
And if you've got a lot of trash in your yard, and if you don't care about it, and you're letting oil leak all over the place, that is not a reflection of an inner you, which is going to be the reflection of how we treat the planet. So
That's right.
please
So
continue.
I've been struggling with two questions for a really long time. One, what am I going to do? What do I need to be doing for my career? What am I going to do? And the other question is, how am I going to do it as well? How am I going to do it? So it was Saturday afternoon, and I was going to see a movie. I was going to see the new Adrian Brody movie, which was really good. It's a long movie. It's 3.5 hours plus an intermission. And it's like half an hour drive from here. So I was going all day to go see this movie. I was committed. I thought about the fact that I really wanted to drive my car clean, new tires, new oil change, new brakes. I wanted it clean. So I spent 45 minutes vacuuming my car so that I could drive it clean to the movies. And I'm listening to Annie Leibovitz talk about excellence and how so much of what she does is philosophy and feel, and how her mentor showed her how to edit her work, and how her editor, her mentor, would look at all the photos that she took, hundreds and hundreds of photos, and she would find the best one. And Annie would just look over the same group of photos for hours and hours trying to find the best one and whittle down. And she would always come up with the same one that her mentor picked, independently of even knowing it. But she didn't know how was she able to do it so well. And I thought about excellence. I thought about vacuuming my car, which is excellent, getting ready to go see this movie, which is excellent. And my friend, Scott, talking about how you do anything is how you're going to do everything. And all of a sudden, this wash of emotion and chemical came over me, and I was chatting it up with ChatGPT, that said that what am I going to do as far as a career path is question itself is keeping me from finding the right answer. The actual question is, how am I going to do it? What standard am I going to uphold?
In whatever it is that you do,
Yeah.
whatever it is that you have set in front of you.
That's right. And all of a sudden, I felt very free in my career, in what I'm doing at work, in private equity and consulting, and with this podcast. And I started to realize that effectively, if there's something that's worth doing at a world-class standard, it must be pretty important. There's another phrase that's anything worth doing well is worth doing poorly, because nobody wants to suck at anything. I hate it. It's the worst. But if you've got something that is a compelling future, Tony Robbins talks about the difference between people that make it out of prison camps and people that don't, based on Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning, is the people that make it out are the ones that have a compelling future. So anything worth doing well is worth doing poorly. And if I'm going to do something really, really hard and I'm going to do it poorly, then it must mean that it's worth it to do it at a world-class level. Well, guess what? There aren't very many things in life that matter enough to do it at a world-class level. And so all of a sudden, it just cut away all the things in life that I don't care about, which is almost everything. And I basically came up with 4 things. And my priorities are really nobody else's business but mine. But since we're talking plain here, I'm happy to share them with you. My priorities, in no particular order, because they're all world-class, are family, health, my work of creating and managing wealth, and the arts. Performing, singing, vocal work, music, playing an instrument, painting, drawing, sketching. That's it. That's all I care about. Not to say that those are the only things that are important. But what I am saying is that those are the only things that are important to me, that are important enough. Like, for example, I tried to play golf for 10 years professionally, and it was important enough to me at the time. The juice was worth the squeeze at the time to hit 1,500 to 2,000 balls a week and play a practice round or 2 a week, a tournament every month or 2, and try to test myself and get better and better. And the juice was worth the squeeze for 10 years. But there came a point where I was in my mid-40s and I'm managing my sales career and I'm trying to make money. I'm doing my job and I'm feeding my family. I'm doing all the right things. I get hurt. I get another injury after injury in my lower back. And it got to the point where the juice was not worth the squeeze anymore. And so I gave it up. And I don't think I played 5 rounds of golf in 5 years, even though it was my favorite thing in the world to do, because the juice was worth the squeeze to pay the price to do it at a world-class level. And as soon as I have this thing that I've loved ever since I was 3 years old, as soon as the juice wasn't worth the squeeze anymore, I'm done. So answering the first question, what am I going to do? And the answer is that question is not helping.
And it's not helpful in the long run because, let's face it, reality says that we grow older, we change, our circumstances, our environments. So if you're going to tie your identity to something like, say, a ballerina or a ballet dancer, and if it ever comes to a point to where you get injured or you become unable to be that vocation any longer, then you'll have a lot of people that just get stuck with who am I and what am I doing? I'm not, and berating themselves, and I should have taken better care of my body, and they get stuck because they've tied their identity to a vocation instead of, like you're talking about, how about instead of saying I'm a XYZ, how about I'm going to do XYZ in this excellent manner. And so as long as you're committed to whatever you put in front of you to being excellent, then now you can be fluid and you could be a jack of all trades but master of none, but all better than one is the complete saying of the jack of all trades but master of none. If you complete it, look it up on Google, Wikipedia, it says, yeah, but it's better to be versed in many different
jack of all
things.
trades, master of none is oftentimes better than master of one.
Exactly. And it's so much more better to be fluid and to be able to be like Bert in Mary Poppins, who's a squeaver. Today I'm a squeaver, tomorrow I'm a chimney sweep. To be able to be mobile and flexible and pliable and to be able to just say that, hey, whatever it is that I'm going to do, whatever task I have in front of me, I'm going to do it at the first class level. And isn't that what taking care of our environment is about? Whether you want to be literal and be
That's
Greenpeace
right.
and taking care of your environment, or if you want to be just taking care of your own home. I was reading in a book of, a big part of the home organization books that I read, and a lot of the home that I study, and it's basically empowering you that if a stranger came to your door and knocked on your door, is your home in the state that you could welcome them in and help them and take care of them and basically be available to them. And as a Christian myself, as a believer, being able to live in a state to where we can always be available to help or to open up our house and our door to somebody, not ashamed or afraid because our place is a mess and you wouldn't even be able to sit down because there's piles of things on top of it. That's taking care of our environment, and that's, being excellent and having our homes a reflection of the level of excellence, and not necessarily walking into your front door and going, "Oh, this guy must be a golfer." That, yeah, you could, but how about walking into the house and immediately feeling, "Wow, this guy's excellent. This guy's on it because his home is put together and
Yeah.
always in order."
So the second piece of this comes from a guy that I worked with at IBM years ago. He was a PwC guy who came into IBM through an acquisition. And IBM at the time was 65 or 70% pro services and advisory and vendor selection stuff. They were getting away from making technology, and they were moving more toward helping people adopt technology. This guy was an Army guy, and he used to say to his people, folks, when I was in the Army, the drill sergeant, he would say, soldiers, do we train for time or do we train to the standard? And the company would say, we train to the standard, sir. In other words, they were going to run until they got faster or fell apart trying. And then they'd go to the mess hall, get something to eat, go to sleep 4 or 5 hours, get up, and then they were going to run again. They were going to keep running until everybody in that company made the time standard. And that was the other side of the coin for me with regard to doing things at a world-class standard, which is that if we're going to go from what am I going to do to make money to what do I care enough about that I'm willing to do it at a world-class standard, we can actually pivot away from the traditional goal-setting process. And bear with me for just a minute here, because this is sacrilege in the world of self-help. I'm not against setting goals. But the other half of the coin of setting standards, we can come to, I want to say Romans 4, where it talks about Abraham, and it's describing a person of faith. And it's saying about Abraham, who against hope believed in hope, that he might become the father of many nations, his own body now dead, about 100 years old, and the deadness of Sarah's womb, who against hope believed in hope, and God accounted it unto him for righteousness. And then he talked about God calling those things which be not as though they were. When we pivot from having a job to understanding that anything that we do can be done at a world-class standard, and that's going to let all of the stuff that doesn't matter fade away. When we pivot to setting that standard at world-class for ourselves, we can also be freed up from the sense of lack that comes from setting and failing to achieve goals. Let me tell you what I mean by that. People will set goals. And within the last few weeks, today's Chinese New Year today, red envelopes going out all over the world. We have people who will set goals this year to get healthy. and they'll join gyms, and gyms have huge upfront costs because that's how they make their balance sheets work. It's not the people that pay every month, it's the people that pay once. And they'll set a goal to be healthy, and maybe they'll go to the gym and maybe they won't. Maybe they'll hit their weight loss goal and maybe they won't. But what you did getting ready to go to Paris is you stepped into a world-class standard for health. And then you maintained that world-class standard of health until your body caught up with where your spirit already was. And you educated yourself, you trained yourself, you rewired your narrative, you rewrote your narrative, you used the Noom app. And yes, there was some exercise involved, and yes, there were some changes on the habit side. But the biggest change is you started living out a standard of proper health. And you did it for 10 months, and you lost 47 pounds after being overweight. Charts would say obese in this country, just overweight in Europe, because BMI is measured differently. But you were overweight. I never said anything about it. I didn't even really notice it. I always thought you looked great, and I would never say that you were overweight until after.
Mhm.
Some people are like, oh, this guy's a creep. He's talking about his wife. She's already overcome it. Okay. We can talk about things that we've overcome after we've overcome them. It's not critical if you're complimenting somebody because they overcame something that isn't an issue anymore. So easy
And I
now.
think it's important that we talk about and discuss the I never had a goal to lose weight. I had a picture in my mind of what I wanted. And the picture what I wanted was I have this trip of a lifetime going to Paris with my daughter. And in my mind's eye, I knew that I wanted to be able to take pictures because she's gorgeous, she's young, she's a photog, she loves taking pictures, she loves being in pictures, she likes modeling, and I wanted to be able to, with confidence, take pictures with her and be able to look back at those pictures
Yeah.
and see pictures of us together and feel like I looked good in those
Yeah.
pictures.
And the
And I
Paris trip
knew
was it was
and it was
booked. It was
pre-planned. It was
paid.
like a year in advance that we were going, and because it was a timeshare situation, and so the trip was locked in. And so the vision of the motivation came from the picture that I had in my mind's eye of being able to be in the picture, be comfortable in the pictures with her, being, 30 years down the road, being able to look back at the pictures of the time that we took together and feeling, like I looked good, feeling like I was cute and like I fit in with her in Paris. And
And the clothes that you would wear
so
would fit and be cute.
there was never a goal of I want to be 130 pounds. There was never a goal of it by this date. It was just like it was more a picture, and then and I do believe in the concept of goals are just dreams with deadlines, because for me I never take for me goals are always this is how you and I probably differ, or maybe we look at goals differently, but I've always looked at goals as being you've got your stretch goal and you've got your big, hairy, audacious goal. Like they move. Goals move. Goals are. I don't get down on myself if I miss it. I try to set a goal that I know is easy to achieve, because then I'm always feeling good because I always make it. But a goal can come, it can go. It's here. It's neither here nor there, because what I'm really after is the picture. And I think that that's what that's what you're talking about, is having that picture in your mind of what does it look like to be fit? What does it look like to be, you know, wealthy or whatever?
Yeah, it's a standard. Being healthy is a standard. And one way we could look at it, Washington's appendectomy yesterday. One of the things they noticed is acute pain, no fever, no flu-like symptoms. White blood cell count was it was outside the range of normal. White blood cell count, for those of you who aren't doctors, myself included, 5,000 to 11,000 cells per unit of measurement. I don't know if it's a milliliter or what have you. And his white blood cell count was 14,000. So it's outside the healthy range. Now, what is that? That's a standard that's being violated. or a standard that's not being adhered to. And I was talking about this with a friend of mine. There are two ways that an alcoholic, I'm told, can stop drinking alcohol. One is they can hit rock bottom, get a DUI, God forbid, hurt somebody or themselves, go to jail, and then they can't get access to alcohol anymore, and they hit rock bottom, and then they go through counseling, and they're done. They're not on it anymore. The other way to get off of substance abuse, if people want to call it that, is to raise their standard to where they're effectively at rock bottom by continuing in their current status. And that's what you did with regard to health, is you raised your standards and said, I want to look cute. I want to fit into the cute clothes. I got a timeline that I want to do this, and I'm going to start tracking and working toward this. You had a definite plan, a definite purpose behind it, a secured deadline. The trip was already paid in advance, and you were going to get it done. And you did. And you got within just a few pounds of what your dream ideal was. You almost even hit the ideal body weight in a period of 10 months. And still, just the transformation. I've had a great benefit of seeing my wife transform before my very eyes into the lovely size that you are now. But most importantly, in my mind, the longevity telemetry is that you're going to be around longer.
Well, I think that what you were saying, if you're going to title it anything, if you're going to write a book, the standard speaks.
It does. In
and
fact,
the standard speaks.
One of the words that God uses to describe himself is Jehovah Nissi. I believe that's right.
Yeah.
The standard bearer. I am the standard bearer, or your standard bearer.
Mm-hmm.
I don't speak Hebrew, but I think we're close. The standard bearer. And the standard bearer is the one who tells you whose side you're on. It's the one that defines where the line is being held in a battle, and the standard of what your country represents or what your warring party is standing for in the first place. So this whole notion of the standard being something that, number one, frees me up from guilt of feeling like I haven't done better in my career. Number two, directs my path to say it doesn't really matter what my next move is, because I'm going to do it at a world-class standard anyway. So it could be golf, it could be painting, it could be software. It doesn't matter, because anything that I care about doing enough to put that kind of work into it, it's going to be good. And then the third side of it is to say, hey, I keep hitting these goals. I keep setting and missing goals, setting and missing goals, setting and missing goals, seeing as how I haven't achieved those goals is kind of a poverty mindset when looking at it juxtaposed against a standard mindset that says, this is what I'm capable of doing, and this is where I'm going to keep my focus. This is the target weight, or the target prosperity level, or the target productivity level in my job, or income level, or achievement telemetry. This is the standard, and I'm going to hold to that standard. And then I'm just going to relax and know that because I have that standard in mind, and eventually we're going to get there, I can take an afternoon off and take a nap. I could take an hour lunch or two. I can do whatever I need to do to take care of my body. I can go to the gym every day. I can not go to the gym for 2 days. I can go to the hot tub, chill out for a little bit. I can read a book. I can do things independent of this maniacal approach to goal setting, because I'm not seeing myself as having not yet achieved the goal. I've flipped it to where, no, the standard is here, and anything that doesn't fit the standard is going to go away by itself. My job is to be the standard bearer for my life.
And we can apply that to being able to maintain standards in all walks of life, standard of communication, standard in relationships, standard in cleanliness, standard in, what's that saying that we love so much in this house? Floss only the teeth you want to keep. Like this is there's all these different.
It's not, did you floss your teeth?
No.
Here's the difference. The goal isn't to floss your teeth. The goal is to have teeth clean and free from the debris that would attract bacteria and plaque buildup, which would cause decay in your teeth. It is to keep your teeth. The goal is to keep your teeth, but you already have them.
Mhm.
So you're maintaining. A standard bearer is somebody who is maintaining a standard because they've already got the goal. They don't want to lose it. And I think people will fight a whole lot harder to keep what they already believe they have than go out and try to attain something that they aren't really sure they need or not.
Yeah. And so
This is a good episode. I'm excited. I might actually listen to this one.
You're gonna listen to your own.
I
Well,
don't
that
usually
would be
listen.
an excellent standard to start listening to our podcast.
I mean, I know what I think, and I've listened to some of them. Yeah.
And
By the way, the reason why I'm dressed like an Eskimo today,
Right, I
it's
know.
really cold outside.
Welcome to our broadcast
It's
from the polar
56
ice
degrees
caps.
here in the South Pole and the North Pole. It's 56 degrees right now, and Jessica just got done working out, and I haven't worked out since yesterday. So,
Yes, for our audio listeners, for your pleasure, Jeff Heilman is
you want to
wearing
describe what I'm wearing?
Jeff Heilman is wearing a red scarf tied around
From
his
Louis
neck
Vuitton.
with a beanie, as
From
well
Ralph
as
Lauren.
a sweater layered under a pea coat jacket, and looks
Long
like
pants
you
and
look
thick
like
socks.
the Shackleton experience
like
here. Ernest Shackleton over here. Oh my goodness. But if you have any challenges or concerns, or if you want to jump into the Jeff Heilman Project, please send us a message or a DM. We'd love to keep talking with you and continuing. We're going to go into the month of February, and I'm gonna start this next week on researching our topics, and you'll have a better idea of what we're going to be talking about in February for our next episode, because this audio comes out the last day, basically the last Friday of January. The video will come out the first week of February, but we will be still talking about the series in the So What's Stressing You Out series. But
I think this was a great series.
it's been a great series, and it's always good to be able to address. I just want to hit these topics head on, and not be concerned about what they're about. If you want to tune in on Friday, for See You Friday, that's growing over there on my Jessica Builds channel, where we're going into the Word and talking more about what the Bible says about these topics. Although today you brought it, Pastor Heilman was in the house, Preacherman was in the house, and
Romans
we
4 is pretty
appreciate it.
good.
And I'm not surprised, because you've been doing a lot of deep diving into that word knowledge. So thanks everybody for tuning in today. We appreciate you. We love you, and we look forward to the future of excellence in your hearts and in your homes.
A world-class standard for you and yours. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks. Bye.